Hello, and welcome to our demonstration of the new online version of Think Like a King. This is going to give you an overview of most, but not all, of the many features that we've built into our newly designed online version. Now, by way of background, Think Like a King has been on the market for almost 25 years in the US and actually around the world. And we have built up an audience of at least 2,000 schools in the US and around the world that have used our software, as well as thousands and thousands more people at home. So we have vast experience with our software. It had been for many years the official scholastic software for the US Chess Federation. It's gotten both user and critical acclaim. During its development, it was the winner of an award from the US Department of Education, what is called the Small Business Innovation and Research Award. And two of the principals in designing this have been named by the University of Texas at Dallas, one of the preeminent collegiate chess programs in the country. We have been, both David McAnulty, the main author of the curriculum, and myself, Steve Lipschultz, the designer of the curriculum, have both been named as Chess Educators of the Year in their very prestigious award. So Think Like a King has a long background and a very significant track record of adoption, and for many years now has been at the epicenter of the scholastic chess movement in the United States. And we have recently done a complete redesign, and although we have not changed the content of our learning curriculum, we have taken it and wrapped it now not just in a desktop version, but now in an online version that can be used by anybody around the world. There's no need to install any software on computers at home or at school, and anybody with an internet-connected device, whether it's a computer, a tablet, or even a smartphone, can fully access the system. So having given you that introduction, now let's take a look at what we have. So here you're looking at our new website at www.TheChessSchool.net. And what I'm going to do is sign in as one of our demo students. So once I sign in, I'm going to simplify the screen a bit, but once I sign in, I land on what we call my home page. And the home page is going to look a little bit different depending on my role in the chess club. I could be either a student, a parent, or a coach. And depending on which of those I am, I might see different things. So if I'm a student, this is my name as our demo student, and this is my personal panel. Here is my chess club panel. The chess club I belong to, I can access some information through this panel. Now, if instead of being a student, I was a parent, this is my father. My father, all parents, can get free access to the system, and whatever of the curriculum that I am licensed to subscribe to, my parents can see for free. So they can not only track my progress whenever they like, but they can read the same chess learning material that I can and learn along with me. And the huge advantage that we're discovering in the US as we talk to chess teaching business owners, is this system, by giving parents an open window into what their kids are learning through their work, this has turned chess from a very opaque business in the minds of parents who never really get much exposure to what their kids are learning into now a very transparent activity that the parents can now participate in and enjoy, and to a vastly greater extent understand the benefits that it brings to their children. So from the perspective of a chess coach running a business, your real customers are not the kids, it's the parents. So giving those customers a better visibility into your program is going to be, we think, a huge advantage to your chess teaching business. Now, not only can the father see one child in the system, but if their family has more than one child in the system, all of their kids who are enrolled in the system have panels here, and they can all be seen. Even if those kids belong to different chess clubs, this is the chess club for her, this is the chess club for him, so you get full access to everything. Now, what can you see through these panels? Well, let's open up Aaron's teaching panel, or his personal panel rather. And when you do that, you see that the panel is divided into three basic sections: the thinking belts array, the chess workouts array, and the weekly workouts array. The thinking belts is our reward and our progress system to reward learning effort. And they're just like karate belts. Worldwide, everybody knows what karate belts are. Just like karate belts, we start off with a white belt level, and the kids will advance all the way through the different colors until ultimately, when they finish the entire curriculum, they have become a 4th degree black belt in thinking. Understand that progress up the thinking belts ladder has nothing whatsoever to do with competitive chess skills. It doesn't matter if you win games or lose games. The only thing that will earn you promotions in the thinking belt system is how much learning effort you have put forth to go through the learning curriculum. We call our curriculum the chess workouts. The curriculum is comprised of 7 complete chess books. Now, they're not books in print. They're interactive books that kids read on the computer screen, and you'll see them in a little bit of detail in just a moment. Here are the 7 titles in order of degree of difficulty and skill levels. First Lessons in Chess, as you might guess, is a tutorial for novices. This is for kids who know absolutely nothing about the game, and by the time they finish this, they will know enough about the game to actually play a complete game of chess at a very rudimentary level. We call this one Volume 0 of the system. It's not really part of the chess workouts because progress in First Lessons is not reflected in progress in the Thinking Belts ladder. Instead, it has its own separate promotion system, as you'll see in a little bit. Once kids learn how to play a game and finish First Lessons in Chess, they then become eligible or able to start the chess workout series. The first 2 books are for beginners, Tactical Thinking and Checkmate Thinking. The next 2 books are for intermediate level with endgame and opening thinking. And then the last 2 books are at a very advanced level, more tactical and more checkmate thinking. So by the time kids finish the entire curriculum, they have accumulated enough knowledge to play potentially in the 1500 to 1900 range, a very sophisticated level for most scholastic chess players. By the time they get to the end of these books, they're really doing master and grandmaster level puzzles. But the most important thing to always keep in mind as you're learning the system is we don't care that much how good kids get at chess, because we are much more concerned about what chess can do to improve their critical thinking skills. This is all about using chess to help them get better executive function skill development. Because the last analysis, by the time these kids are adults, none of them are really going to make their living playing chess. But they will be much more likely to be able to make their living because they've made it into professional school, they have been able to get into scientific or engineering study pathways, or even if they go into the arts or humanities, the critical thinking and other executive function skills, including the most important one of impulse control, that is the most important stuff that chess can teach them. So what we encourage coaches to tell the parents is, the most important kids to get into chess are not the ones who have a natural ability to play chess. They're going to be successful in life no matter what because they have good executive function abilities. The most important kids to get into chess are the kids who sometimes struggle with impulse control or executive function abilities. And we have built our system to not appeal only to the kids who are good at chess, but to specifically make it much easier to get all the other kids into chess as well. So by taking that approach, we think that you're going to be able to really grow your teaching business. Now, let's look a little more at the details of how this works. These, as I say, are the titles of the books. These are all the chapters in each of the books. Tactical Thinking has about 19 chapters, Checkmate Thinking has about 21, and so on. The color codes here tell you about the child's progress through these books. A blue color means that chapter has been finished and successfully done enough to pass. The passing score for any book is what the coach decides, and it can be anywhere from 50% of the points that the chapter has to 100%. So it's up to you to set the passing threshold. A gray color here means that that chapter has not been finished. An orange color means the chapter has been finished, but there has not been enough points earned by the student to pass that chapter. Now, this is important because in order to accumulate your thinking belts, you have to pass all of the chapters in a certain range in that book. So a check mark means that I finished all the chapters in the white belt level, and you can't really see it so well on this demo, I don't think, but this white stripe above this chapter range, the first 10 chapters in tactical thinking, these are the chapters you have to finish for the first degree white belt and the second degree white belt. The check marks here indicate the threshold chapters. Once you pass those, you get your next promotion. Here in checkmate thinking, this is the orange belt level, the green belt level, and the purple belt level. On a small monitor picture that you're probably seeing right now, it's a little hard to distinguish this, but on your own one-on-one monitor, it's a lot easier. As far as endgame opening and more tactical, more checkmate thinking go, all one belt color for those books, but there are 4 or 5 levels that you have to pass as you work through the books to get your credits before you get to the next belt level. So the symbols here tell you what's going on. They passed this level. This one has not been finished. An asterisk means that they finished everything in here, but they haven't passed one or more of those chapters. And that information is reflected by these colors here. So if you look back, why isn't there a green belt and why isn't there a purple belt? It's because they didn't pass this chapter, they didn't pass these 2 chapters. And later on, you'll see how easy it is to go back and rectify those deficiencies. Now, not only can the coach set the passing score for any chapters, but the coach can also set the rescoring delay. Because if you don't get enough points on a puzzle the first time you do it, because when you make mistakes, you lose points, you can always go back and do it again. But it's up to the coach to decide how long you have to wait before you can go back and redo a puzzle whose answer you have already seen. Obviously, you can set it for a 0 delay so they can immediately go back and execute the right move. That's not such a great learning strategy, we don't think, but we let you do it if you want to. Or you can set that rescoring delay anywhere from 1 day to 3 days to 1 week or 2 weeks or even a month. It's entirely up to the coach. So the system is very flexible and it lets you do a lot of things the way you like to do it. So this explains the thinking belts array and the chess workouts array. Down here, we have the weekly workouts array. Weekly workouts are one of the new features we've introduced with our online version, and this is a very, very cool feature because we now let you use the software to set up a formal chess course. And each of the chess workouts, we have introduced about 15 sample courses. Our 7 books give you 15 course options. Each course is the content of 1 chess workout volume. The only difference is in the rate at which you go through them. So you can assign kids 1 chapter a week to do or 2 or 3 chapters a week to do, and obviously that will determine how quickly they go through a book. The options are there for you to use to customize to whatever your own personal teaching style is. But the way it works is that at the end of each week's chess lesson, the system can be set to automatically send out a weekly workout assignment. So some content of one of the chess workout volumes will correspond to what you have been teaching the kids that week. And by the time they get home from school, that assignment is there waiting for them. So they will see the title of the assignment. Every assignment has a due date, usually a week later. These are overdue. If they were successfully completed, there'd be a nice happy green check mark there. And here's more information about the assignment, the book it's in, and the chapters that it involves. And all of this stuff is sent out automatically by the system, and we'll look at that in a little more detail at the very end of the demonstration. So all of this information is available on this child's personal panel on their own personal home page. This is what gives kids and parents a huge window into the program. So now that I've described the home page, let's look at the next element of our system, the content of the chess workout books themselves. And finally, before we leave this, you'll notice this little thinking tag icon here. The silver belt reflects the highest level of achievement that Aaron has really earned, because you don't get another belt level until you've finished everything before that. So even though he's finished successful orange belt, since he hasn't done all the basics, that's not going to be reflected here with the orange belt thinking tag. So there's always little symbols that kids will strive for as their tokens of learning accomplishment. So as I said, let's open a book, and I'm going to show you the structure of the chess workouts. So let's start by looking at how they work by opening tactical thinking. Now, I'm going to just jump up a page here and show you something. When we call them books, they really are books, but as I said, they're not in print. These are purely digital books. On the left side is the text. The right side is an interactive chessboard. You can always tell what chapter you're in and what page you're in the chapter by title and by chapter number and page number. You can go forward one chapter at a time or one page at a time or backward the same way. On any particular page, it will have 1 or sometimes 10 or 20 screens. So this is position 1 of 2 in this simple one-move puzzle. Up here you see the point value for this puzzle, which has already been done by this child. And notice he didn't get all the points, so he may someday want to go back and get more points. And if that rescoring delay that I have talked about has passed, you can click this trash can icon, and that resets the page to a virgin scoring state. So now I can get all the points if I get the right answer at first. So how do the pages work? Oh wait, how do the pages? Before I get to that, let's look at a few more control elements. Here is the Books button. These are all of the books, so you can jump between books whenever you want. Kids are free to do that, although of course, like any structured learning system, it's better if they do it in order, but we don't mandate that that happens. Kids want freedom, so we give it to them. In any book, you can see all of the chapters in the book and all the points that every chapter is worth. Each chapter is, of course, titled. And right now we're in this Escaping from Pins chapter. So if I click the Pages chapter, these are all of the pages within that chapter. And you'll notice that most of these pages have been done, but 2 of them have yet to be finished. This is the page I'm on right now. Here is our settings menu, and you can change various settings, including the text size. You can turn the board labels on and off. You can turn sound effects on and off. And very importantly, in our online version, we now have full voice narration for volumes, for the first 3 volumes, First Lessons in Chess, Tactical Thinking, and Checkmate Thinking, the 3 books for beginners. So even young kids who are not yet accomplished readers can still get full access to the knowledge because all of it is read aloud by a trained actor. So you can change those settings anytime you want. So how do the pages work? Well, every page has instructions. Escape from a pin, white to move. Moving the pieces is a matter of clicking on the piece you want to move and then clicking on the square you want it to go to. And since that's the correct move, it makes a happy sound, and I get 20 out of 20 points. Notice, very importantly, response text comes up. After every puzzle, there's a response text, and that explains why it's a successful move. If a kid sees that a move is successful, they've learned a little bit, oh, it's successful, but they don't really, that's only part of a lesson. You want to explain why that worked, and that explanation gets them to think about what does it really take to get a correct move. It's not just a question of finding it, it's a question of understanding it and being able to explain why it's successful. Those are hugely important points in the learning process. And compared to virtually all the other chess teaching software out there, we are unique in how well we execute this part of the learning process that most other systems completely ignore. So I've successfully finished this page. Now I can go to the next page. Now what happens if I don't know the answer? Well, I can always use the move button to make the right move, but look what happens. If I peek at the first move, it's a 5-point penalty to see the move. If I just make a mistake, that's a 1-point penalty. But if I peek at the first move in a puzzle, that's going to cost me big time. But kids will sometimes do that. So we make the right move. Now I've only gotten 15 out of the 20 points. And again, the response text still comes up. So this is the mechanics of how the chess workouts books work. And you can see that it's simple, it's intuitive, it's very easy to navigate through. And by the way, if I ever wanted to reset to the position, to the start of a position, I click on that and I go back to the very beginning, or I could always go back one board, one screen at a time. So those are the mechanics. Now let's look at the teaching content of a little bit of each of the books. So let's start with First Lessons in Chess, our book for beginners. This is for absolute novices who don't know anything about chess. And these are all the chapters. There's about 30 chapters in this book. And you all have taught chess long enough that you know obviously what we have to teach to get kids to know it. So the content is predictable. We talk about the chessboard. We talk a little about how the game works. white move, white and black alternate moves, those sort of basics. We talk about pawns, en passant, the pieces, how do all the pieces move. We work our way up through special moves, checkmate, stalemate, castling, the value of pieces. We even talk about notation, and we have puzzles on getting chess reading and notation writing. And then we get to some basic tactics, some beginning, opening, endgame stuff. So by the time kids finish this game, as I said, they know how to play a basic game. Not in a very thoughtful or planful fashion, but they know how to play the game. But much more than just teaching the basics, we can do things with interactive teaching that are virtually impossible for you to do in a classroom. So think about our entire curriculum not as a replacement for what you teach. You can continue to teach everything you teach exactly the same way. But now when the kids go home, they have material that can amplify and reinforce what you have just taught them and actually do even more. Because look at this. After we teach them on the chessboard about ranks and files, the next chapter is the board challenge. The board challenge is an exercise. They can pick to do this, pick different levels to do this. Each level gives them a little bit less time to successfully complete this challenge. So let's arbitrarily choose the bishop level. What is the challenge? Well, I have to click, as you can see up here, on C6. If I get it right, I get another one. At F7, I have to click on it. These come up randomly. It's never the same thing twice. And in order to pass this challenge, I have to give 20 correct answers in a row without ever making a mistake. Because if I make a mistake, sorry, you got to start over again. So by the time your novice players have passed this at 1 or 2 or 3 levels, they've had huge opportunities to practice understanding the chessboard. This, as you know, is one of the biggest barriers with a lot of early learners. This is what makes it hard for them to get beyond a certain starting point because it's still so unfamiliar to them. But just by doing this simple exercise over and over and over again until they pass several times, they get a huge opportunity to have fun and get beyond this early learning hurdle. And it makes all the difference in the world if you can make it easier for them to do this. So this is one of the huge advantages of interactive learning. And by the way, when you do this at the king level, the rank and file markers disappear. So now they really have to know this. And of course, something you all already know, if they're facile at basic board notation, when it comes time for them to go to math class and start on graphing, it's a simple matter to them. They don't have to learn anything new with graphing. It's a basic Cartesian coordinate system, just like a chessboard. So what they learn here, as you all already know, translates readily into other school and life learning. Now, going a little further in the book, after we teach them pawns and pawn promotion, we have the marching pawn game. And here, once again, you get the chance to do it regular or faster rate. And what is this game? We notice we have all the pawns lined up. Start the challenge. I have to move a pawn to G4. Now I have to move a black pawn to A6. And back and forth it goes. We move the pawns again randomly. It's never the same way twice. We keep doing this until one side or the other promotes a pawn. And again, if they make a mistake, they have to start all over again. So now it's not just notation, it's getting facile with moving a piece to a designated square. And you can see how, not only how much fun the kids are going to have doing this for the first few times, but how much this will hone their skills. And very predictably, later in the book, we have the piece challenge. After they've learned how to do all the pieces, we give them the opportunity to practice moving, let's say, rooks. I now have to make 20 correct moves with a rook, alternating white and black. And if I make a mistake, I have to start over. So just that little bit of the ability to use interactive learning to get information, to give kids a chance to practice something that they would never spend time on in class. This is going to go a huge way with your novices to get them over some really important hurdles and make learning chess much easier for them. So that's a look at some of the features of first lessons in chess. Now let's go to tactical thinking. And remember, I've said a couple times now, by the time they finish first lessons in chess, they know how to play a basic game, but not a very thoughtful or planful game. So now we go to tactical thinking, and the whole point of tactical thinking and checkmate thinking, the next book, is that this is where we help kids to make the transition towards becoming true chess thinkers. So here are all of the chapters. We start off with some basic things. En prise, if the piece is unguarded and you can take it for free, go ahead. Material advantage, 5-point rooks, 3-point bishops, 9-point queens, that sort of thing. Attackers versus defenders. If you've got 2 pieces attacking a square and there are 3 pieces defending that square, you're probably going to come up with a short end of the stick. So think twice before you do that. And then after we go over these basic concepts, we start to look at the basic tactics. 2 chapters on forks, 5 chapters on pins, and so on. Now, I always use the pins sequence to illustrate the power of our teaching and the methodology of our teaching. The first page of a chapter always discusses the topic in that chapter. So there's a little bit of reading to be done, or as I said, you can turn the speak text on and a human voice will read it back to you in a very thoughtful and a very artistic fashion. Excuse me. So usually the picture tells the story, and quite obviously if this knight moves out of the way, the king is in check, and that's absolutely illegal, so you absolutely cannot move this knight. So this is the definition of an absolute pin. On the next page we need to explain something else, a related concept. It's not illegal to move this knight, but certainly, as the arrows show, will be relatively painful if you did it. So we call this a relative pin. These are standard chess definitions. So we explain this, and having introduced the subject for this chapter, on the 3rd page, there is an exercise. And the rest of this chapter, they now have 16 pages, 16 chances to execute a simple pin. Since this is a book for beginners, the first chapter on pins is very elementary. So find the pin, white to move. As I said, if I make a mistake, that's a 1-point penalty. But when I make the right move, a happy sound comes up. Now, since this page had already been scored, it doesn't show the penalty, but had I cleared the old score and done it again, I would have gotten 9 out of the 10 points. Okay, so now we have another 15 pages to practice executing an elementary pin. But then let's go on to the next chapter, where we have it as more pins. In this chapter, we have more realistic game positions. And it's not really hard to find the answer. You can look at the board and find it yourself very quickly. But after a little bit of thought, the kids can always find it. And once again, response text comes up. Since black can move the rook if he wants, this is a relative pin, but relatively speaking, it's less painful to lose a rook than a queen. Again, the language amplifies the lesson. It's not enough for them to just make the right answer and then not think about it. So we help them think about it and solidify the learning, which again is critically important to build that solid foundation of knowledge that kids really need in order to keep moving up the chess progress ladder and achieve meaningful results later on. So now we have another 13 or 14 puzzles. So by the time the kids have done these first two chapters, they have executed a pin 30 times, and they know how to execute a pin. But what don't they know yet? They don't know how to think about how would I use this to my tactical advantage. So that brings us to the 3rd chapter on pins, after a pin, piling on. Piling on, what's that? It's not a commonly used chess term most places, but the concept is obvious. As the position shows, which we looked at before, it's the same thing when we introduced the relative pin. Just because you pin doesn't mean you win. There's no real advantage to white in this position, far from it. So we talk about that, and on the next page, we introduce a little more material balance by putting a rook on the board. But this is not a puzzle that they can solve. This is a lesson. So they read the text, and we tell them down here, click the move button to play the lesson out. And you certainly don't lose any points when we tell you to do that, and you don't see a penalty come up when you hover over the move button. So we click the move button, and we show them. If the piece is stuck and cannot move, what do? Hit it a second time. And the arrows make it very obvious what's going on. So, an obvious lesson, a catchy name, a visual diagram, and it's pretty clear to just about every child how you would use a pin to your tactical advantage now by piling on. And now they have another 10 or 11 chances to practice that same thing. So we've taught them how to think about using a pin to their tactical advantage in this chapter. But that's not the only way you can use a pin to your tactical advantage. So in the 4th chapter, we have pin pieces don't protect. And the lesson here is, normally, this pawn is supposed to protect its neighbor, but because it is pinned by the rook, it can't, and the bishop is free to gobble it up. And once again, arrows come up and tell the story, and the text elaborates on the lesson. And it usually does so in a way, in a text that's a little bit of exciting and generates a little bit of extra energy around the subject. So now they know 2 ways that they might use a pin to their tactical advantage. So now not only do they know how to do a pin, they're learning how to think ahead about how you would set a pin up to help you. So again, it's that stepwise learning that they can go through in this very thoughtful and very well-structured curriculum. But we're still not done with pins, because there's one more chapter on pins called Escaping from Pins. And the lesson here is, just because you're pinned doesn't mean you're screwed. But we don't use that word with kids, of course. This is just the concept. So this page is one of my favorite pages in all the books, because it illustrates something else that we can do because of the way we teach using language that most other chess teaching systems simply cannot even touch. And what is that? Well, we can use language to teach much more than just chess. We can teach kids language. We can teach them vocabulary. We can teach them sentence structure. We can teach them good ways to explain things. Notice the text here. Escape from a pin, black to move. White has black's rook pinned against the queen and expects to go up in the exchange to come. Is there anything black can do to foil white's hopes? For a lot of the young kids or kids who come from less advantaged environments, foil might be a new vocabulary word. So we help them broaden their language horizons. And when you get into learning sciences, language skills are a very, very critical part of executive function skills. You can't really have one without the other. So knowing how to communicate is a very important way of knowing how to think. So the language really is important, as is learning the chess. So all of you, I'm sure by now, see the answer to this puzzle, and let's look at what happens when we execute that right move, the correct move. Well, not only has black made a successful move, let's look at how we explain it. Black took white's pin and bent it into a fork. Now he'll use his new utensil to eat white's bishop. Black not only successfully escaped from the pin, but he gets dessert as well. So what have we done? More vocabulary. Utensil can be a new vocabulary word to them. And we've introduced a little bit of a pun between pin and fork, a little bit of wordplay. And what is a pun? A pun is an unexpected association revealed between 2 things that you didn't think at first had anything in common. It is a good example of outside-the-box thinking. It's a way of taking a different perspective, a different view on the situation. And that's one of the things that chess can teach kids. Think about things differently. Don't get trapped into just one way of thinking. And our dialogue, our language constantly emphasizes that sort of thing. So not only do we use new words and language and humor, the humor that we use throughout adds a little bit of enjoyment, a little bit more enjoyment to it, and keeps it lighthearted and keeps the kids' energetic juices flowing. But all of this is about getting them to really think about things. So our ability to structure this as a book, our design of structuring this as a book, really truly does set this several levels above all the other chess software that's out there, I believe. So this is an example of our learning content and teaching style in the first couple of books. But let's look a little further. Let's go further up the system to our intermediate level books and look at endgame thinking. Now, you can teach tactics and checkmate with puzzles, but you can't really teach endgame and opening with puzzles. We need to use lots of lessons. So here we are at the end of a puzzle that I have used for demonstration over and over again. This is screen 12 of 12. So this is 6 full moves deep in this lesson. So I'm going to reset it to the very beginning. And here is where we are in the book. Halfway through the book, in our endgame book, we talk about all of these topics. So they've learned a great deal before they have gotten to this chapter on outflanking. And in this outflanking chapter, we're on page 3. We've told them what we defined outflanking. We talked about blocked pawns and keys on this page. And now we talk about using blocked keys. So how do we teach this? Well, in this page, it's black to move, and all of you chess coaches out there all obviously know that if it's black to move, white wins every time with best play. But most of your students will have no clue about this until you teach them. And it's a complex thing to explain because it rests on so much earlier knowledge that you've had to build up before this. So we talk about the things that we want them to know, and we tell them to click the move button to advance the game, and black makes his only sensible move. Black didn't have much choice here, did he? Etc. What do you think white will do now? Decide for yourself, then click the move button to see. So when we click the move button, white makes his winning, but very surprising to most kids, move. He wins by moving away from the position. In military terms, moving to the side and attacking from the side is called an outflanking maneuver. So the discussion goes on from now, and all of this discussion is the chess coach having a conversation with the student. So what can black do now? Click the move button to see, and here we make it a little more visually interesting to the kids, because not only do we make the move, but a very simple little visual aid comes up to show kids that that white has built a wall around the black position. And as all of you know, the hard thing to teach kids in endgame is the board is not about just the squares that have pieces on them. You have to be able to look at the empty squares on the board and understand how you influence those as well. And that's a very, very hard thing for kids to learn, even more advanced kids. It's a very difficult thing to get them to really get their heads around. But a simple little visual cue makes it very obvious to see what's going on. And this is not just a one-time thing, because when we make the next move, white moves in and the wall gets closer. And now it's very easy for the kids to see what's going on. And we make another move, and black makes a good move, because if he hadn't moved away there, and we deliberately didn't put the X's in this time, because we want them to start thinking about the board without the X's, but when white moves again, the X's come back, and that wall is becoming very obvious now. Black can go ahead and move in now. All white has to do is come up there, and now it's totally obvious. Black can no longer protect the pawn. He has to move away, and white is free to gobble that pawn. And we allow black to make one more move to achieve this endgame key position. They've learned about this in the last chapter. So they already know that with white to move, white promotes every single time with best play. So because we've already taught them that in the last chapter, we don't have to repeat that lesson now. But what we can do is see the option. Options come up in the chess workouts all the time. And usually an option will just show them what an alternate line of play would be. So the option may show you what would happen. If you move the bishop instead of the rook, here's why it didn't work. And we take the position and we play out the 2 or 3 or 4 moves that show you why that line of play is unsuccessful. In this case, though, because it happens to be a good teaching maneuver, the option is play it again, Sam. So we reset to the starting position, and now without them doing anything, there is a little automatic chess movie of the ballet dance between these two kings. We don't use the X's now because the kids saw them, and now they're visualizing those X's in their own mind as they're replaying this maneuver in their own mind's eye until the king captures the pawn. And here we elect to actually go ahead and review for them how you do promote that pawn, because we can do it very quickly and efficiently and reinforce the lesson they learned a week ago so they can see it again and refresh their memory. So we'll play it out until the white pawn promotes. And we end it there, and we have reviewed a whole lot of learning. So this is how we approach the mid-level stuff of endgames and openings. Lots of lessons, and later on that's reinforced with puzzles. So they get to demonstrate what they have learned, and they have to do so successfully in order to get credit for passing the chapters. But this is how we teach endgame and opening. Now let's take a quick look at one of the advanced books, More Tactical Thinking. We're back to using puzzles because we're back on tactics. And the idea here is that in the chapters in this book, we're back to some basic stuff. We talk about trapping. These, however, are not one-move puzzles. These can be 2, 3, 4, or 5-move puzzles. By the time we get to the end of this book, we're doing grandmaster level puzzles. Notice we start off with the basic tactics again, but this is not win in 1 by executing a pin. This is win in 2 or 3 or 4 moves. The winning move will be a pin in this chapter. They know that. But they have to set that pin up with 1 or 2 or 3 moves before then. So they really have to think and understand of what they have learned before, and now they're getting to the point where they're really able to study the chessboard and see and create the various possibilities for themselves. And again, all of this is very stepwise, very structured, and every chapter builds on what they've learned up until that point in a very organized fashion. Now notice, as we get to the second half of the book, we're looking at more complex tactics, removing the guard, overload, distraction, decoying, interception. There are 2 chapters on each. And by the time you get into the second of the chapters, the puzzles are getting really hard. But we don't just give them a hard puzzle to do, because that's pointless. We don't really care if they solve the puzzle. What we care about is, do they learn how to solve puzzles, how to think about solving puzzles. So the text analysis that we use to introduce each position is very, very good positional analysis. So we point their minds in the right direction so they can figure the solution out for themselves. We will show them what are the strengths of a position, what are the weaknesses of a position, what are the key pieces, what are the key squares. We give them just enough information so they know how to think from that point. And by seeing enough discussion of this style, eventually they get to be able to figure this out for themselves without the coaching that they would never have in a regular game, obviously. Once they learn the thought processes, once they learn how to look at a chessboard through the eyes of a master level player, kids can rise to the occasion and begin to figure this stuff out themselves. So this positional analysis is hugely valuable way to get them to learn more, much more valuable than just giving them a puzzle and say, white to move and win in 3. Again, it's the book-like structure of all of this, and as you play through these solutions, move by move, response text comes up after each one to explain the position, and finally you get to the end of the puzzle and you see why it would work by doing what you did. So that's a quick look at how we do the more advanced stuff. So this is how the books work. And once you decide to start using our system, you will have access to all of the teaching content, so you can go through every single page of every single book as much as you want to, and you'll be able to quickly learn all of the content for yourself and understand all of the nuances that we have. Now, there is a lot of material in these books. In the 7 volumes, there are more than 8,500 screens between these, and there are 15 to 30 chapters in each of these books. The pages, the 2 books in the middle, Endgame and Opening Thinking, have the fewest chapters, but those, and the fewest total pages, but in these 2 books, a page is just 2 moves. In these 2 books, a page can be 10 or 15 or 20 moves. So in Opening, one page can be an entire game played out step by step. It just depends on what the teaching situation is. So there's huge content in these 2 books, even though it is divided into just fewer pages. Vastly more words in these 2 books than in these 2 books. But that's just what it takes to teach these topics. So that is our teaching content. Now I'm going to go on to the third part of the demonstration, and we're going to leave the teaching material and we're going to go to the coaches tool that is called Chess Club Manager. So now I'm going to switch to a different view, and now you are, I'm going to reset this to a home screen. Now you're a coach. This is back on your own personal home page. You're a coach that works with multiple chess clubs. So for each of those chess clubs, whatever they're named, you will have a panel. And by clicking on that panel, you open up Chess Club Manager and see the data for that club. Now notice this little statement for Demo Chess Club A, tournament this Saturday. The coach for this club can send out a message blast by typing just a few words into Chess Club Manager and clicking a button. That message goes to the home screen of every child in that club, and the next time they log in, they see that information. So let's open this particular demo chess club, and when I do that, now I am in Chess Club Manager. Chess Club Manager has many different sections. Each section is reflected by one of these tabs, and is a different functional group within Chess Club Manager. There are different features on each of these screens. When I go to the club setup screen, you'll notice that I see all of the kids in the club are in my roster, and they all have this awkward name of test student, just so I can keep it simple. Here's one real name, and these are just mock names, but every child has, we keep track of a club rating and bonus points, and you can also keep track of the workout points that they earn and the number of games that they play. Different screens give you slightly different views, but your whole club roster is shown here. You can, in any club, you can create, you set various parameters. Every club has a head coach, and you can invite assistant coaches to help you. The assistant coaches have the same access to the club data that you would. You can even appoint kids in the club to be captains, to do the actual data entry for you. They can have access to some of these features, but not to all of them. That's up to you. You can set, as I said, the redo period immediately, or delays of 1 week, 2 weeks, a month, or just a couple of days. This again is when can they try and get more points on a puzzle they've already seen. What is the passing score? 50% all the way up to 100%. It can be whatever you want it to be. I keep it at 50% for demo purposes. You would probably want to set it at least 80 or 85% would be my advice. The other things you can do in Chess Club Manager is create as many divisions in your club and give them whatever names you want. So you can divide kids into skill groups. If you wanted to divide them by height, by last name, any way you wanted to do it, keep your club fun and engaging. Your club can be as formal and competitive or as relaxed and casual as you like. It's your group of kids. Manage them whatever way works best for you and for them. But we give you the flexibility to do it any way you like. So you can add or remove divisions or change them whenever you want. You can assign kids to these divisions. Most coaches are going to use these for different skill levels. So you can have the pawns group going through first lessons in chess, the knights group going through tactical thinking, the bishops through checkmate thinking, and so on. It's entirely up to you. Now, what will Chess Club Manager do for you? Well, one of the nicest things it does, it will help you keep an accurate, precise, instantaneous, and up-to-the-minute club rating system with zero effort on the part of you, the coach. And the way you do that is, on our Enter Games screen, you're not entering the entire game, you're just entering the outcome of the game. So when two kids finish playing a game in Chess Club, they stand up, shake hands, walk up to the computer, the tablet, the laptop, whatever, or you could actually print an entry form and put a piece of paper out there, and they can write their names down, the white player, the black player, and just check who has won the game. And later on, the coach or the club captain can go back and do this data entry chore themselves. But if you do have the technology there, whoops, I just did something I didn't want to do, and I closed the wrong screen. So give me a second to recover, and I'm going to have to go back to that club. I'm going to go back to Demo Club A, and back to the Enter Game screen. I'm sorry for that little unanticipated detour, but my two kids have just finished a chess game, and they come up to the computer, and the white player clicks on his or her name on the roster. The black player does the same thing, and notice both their names appear here. If they wanted to, they could have found the name from the list here instead, whichever way works better. Then they simply click on the outcome of the game. Let's let the white player win, and save the game results. And notice one player wins points, and the other player loses points. How many points? It depends on the scoring system you have selected. Right now, we're using the standard scoring system, but we have two other options. We can use the less painful and the painless systems. What are those? Well, those are fully demonstrated on our club setup screen. If you go to scoring systems, you can see scoring system details. The standard system is the Harkness system, which most of you are probably familiar with. The winner wins, the loser loses an equal number of points. How many points depend on the difference between their starting ratings. So when it's evenly matched, this is what happens. When a strong player beats up on a weak player, not many points change hands, but if there's an upset, a lot of points change hands. But we give you options, as I said, for a less painful system, where the winner wins, but the loser loses half. Or you can use the painless system, where the winner wins, the loser does not lose. It's entirely up to you how competitive versus how much fun and casual you want to make your club. And you can change between those anytime you want You can have the painless Tuesday chess tournament once a month, anything to keep your groups fun and engaged and make chess not just educationally beneficial, but fun and engaging for your kids. So this little bit of competition in club rating system is enough to transform an activity into a sport, because once there are points at stake, kids will take chess a lot more seriously. And if you find that some of the members of your club are just being a little too casual and not paying attention, introducing a rating system will almost always help them focus more on this, because kids love to win points, they hate to lose points, and they all want to get the best possible rating. So use that any way that works for you, but remember that chess from an educational perspective is more than just finding the best chess players. You want to make sure everybody stays engaged. So we give you ways to reward participation and learning effort, not just chess success. So you can give kids bonus points whenever you want for any of these activities. How do you do that? Well, pick a category, sportsmanship, and then this guy, this guy, this guy, this guy, and this guy. As soon as I click this button, all of them just got 5 more points in the bonus point category. This does not affect their club rating. It's a totally separate category. And then later on, you can go to the awards screen and generate awards for all of these things. It will parse the database and generate awards for any of these categories based on performance, or you can do a custom award that says anything you want: outstanding performance, best dressed chess player, most helpful chess player. Reward the kids who happen not to be great chess players, but are still getting a lot from the experience of participating in chess. You don't want to lose them because they're not the top ranked players. So we give you all sorts of ways to reward and encourage them and make sure they stay with chess, because they're probably going to get more important stuff from chess than the kids who are naturally successful at it. That's a very important thing to keep in mind. So all of the bonus points and the awards are all about keeping kids in the program, which of course is going to be good for your business. So how do the awards work? Well, club rating, we'll pick club rating as an example. You can give it to just the top kid in a group, or you can give it to the top X number of players. And you can do it for the club as a whole, or you can do it for every single division and every single grade that you select. You can even elect to rank boys separately from girls. Why would you want to do that? There's probably only one reason, because this way you get twice as many first, second, and third place winners, twice as many happy kids, which is obviously important to keep kids from dropping out of the program. And the more kids who stay in the program, the better your business is going to be. So do it any way you want, any way that works for you. How does it work? Well, as soon as I click Generate the Awards, I've just created 3 awards, the top 3 awards for the entire group for Chess Club ratings. And I can print those awards, and they would look like this, with the name of your chess club up here and the name of the head coach, probably you down here. This player gets first place, the next player gets second place, and so on. And you can print these awards, or why waste paper? Better still, you can email these awards. And since you probably have the parents' email addresses on file rather than the kids, these email awards go right to the parents. It's another great way of communicating directly with the most important customers, the parents who are paying money for their kids to be in your program. Another great way to let the parents touch and feel what you're doing for their kids and how this program is really helping them. So that's the motivational stuff. We looked at the thinking belts, another key motivational thing. You saw how on the home panels, on the home pages, the kids can see their own progress. The coach can see everybody's progress. This is everybody in the club and the progress they've made through the thinking belts. Notice in first lessons, I told you earlier, that's pre-thinking belts. First lessons, the progress they make through the book is denoted by chess pieces. They all start at a pawn level. Then the more chapters they read, they make it up to knight and bishop and so on. And by king level, they have finished. So this is the designation for progress in first lessons. And instead of the thinking tag showing the typical colors, it would show a chess icon. When they get into first lessons, they have the thinking tag that shows them their belt level. So how does the coach know who's doing how well in the group? Well, if I want to see how Aaron here is doing, I click on his name, and this is his progress section that we saw in his home panel. It's the same thing we saw. And I see that it looks like he's done pretty well here. I can see down here that he's gotten all the way up to the green belt, but he hasn't finished the green belt level. What's going on here? The green belt and purple belt, there's some deficiencies here. So by looking here at this green belt section, I see he hasn't finished, he hasn't successfully passed this chapter, he hasn't successfully passed this chapter. If I want to drill down, I can click on this chapter, and this opens up the chess workout books as though Aaron is reading it. But this is a view-only mode, so that anything I do is not going to affect Aaron's ability to get more points in the future. And by the way, it's the same thing that the parents would see when they access the kids' learning. They can read it. The parents won't get scored on it because they really don't care about thinking belts, I'm sure. But what they read will not affect their child's ability to get progress. So if I want to see why Aaron did not pass that chapter, by clicking on chapter 15, I've opened the book to chapter 15. So now when I look at the pages table of contents, I can see all of the points he's gotten, and look at this. He really didn't do very well in these checkmate in one puzzles at all, did he? So now I know that Aaron needs a little bit of practice going through mate in one puzzles. So the coach, when I go back to Chess Club Manager, can get the 10,000-foot view of the whole club or drill down to a microscopic view of any individual child's progress. So this is the thinking belts. Now, there are two more things I want to show you in Chess Club Manager, and one of them is the weekly workouts. I alluded to that earlier. These are the assignments that you can send out each week. And in the weekly workout section, if you go to Manage Club Courses, here are the 15 sample courses we have. First Lessons has 3 options. Each of the other 6 books has 2 options, a total of 15 courses. Any one course is the content of one book, and the difference is only how fast you go through them. How many chapters a week are you assigning? 1 chapter a week or 2 chapters a week in this particular example. So you decide which courses work best for your group and your timetable, and add those courses to your schedule, to your program. And then when you go back to the main screen, your courses button, all courses button, you can select a particular course. Let's look at Checkmate Thinking, and it's now week 6 of my lesson cycle, so I'm going to send out the assignment for that week, and by clicking on this assignment, here are the details of that assignment. Each one has a title, each one automatically has a due date, which by default is 1 week from today's date, but I can change that if I need to, just by using the calendar. Here are the lessons in that chapter, in this assignment, these 3 chapters in this book, and if I wanted to, I can edit this template and change this. So I can create my own unique lesson plans if I want to, or I can use the sample ones. It's your choice, because we want to make this as flexible as possible for you. And nicest of all, perhaps, is before I assign this assignment, who is it going to go to? Is the whole club going to get this assignment? Or have I broken my kids into different skill levels, and do I want to send this assignment only to the group of kids that I have working on this particular book? So as soon as I make that decision and click this Assign Now button, that assignment goes out to only the kids in the group that I have selected, and then I'm free to do a different assignment for the next one, for the next group. Now, within the next few months, this will not be a manual process, and you will have the option of, at the beginning of each of your lesson cycles, just setting up an automatic calendar for each of your clubs, so that in week 1 or week 2 or week 3, the system will automatically send out that assignment for them, and you don't even have to go through this manual process. You set it up once, you're good to go for the rest of your lesson cycle. So these weekly workouts are, we think, going to be a huge benefit to your teaching efforts, because it lets you create a structured expectation of learning. And the kids are going to make much more progress, much more solid learning, a much stronger foundation. And because they're so much more successful, they're going to sign up for the next cycle of lessons and the next cycle of lessons and the next cycle of lessons. They're going to go to more tournaments because they're having more fun and they're being more successful. Their parents are going to see that enthusiasm in the kids, And I think this is going to help your businesses grow very, very significantly over time. Now, we have just added one more feature to Chess Club Manager. This is brand new. We just put it in yesterday, in fact, and this is called Major League Chess. Now, over time, we hope that we're going to increase the functionality of Major League Chess dramatically. Right now, what it does is it lets you create one or more teams within your club and arrange intramural chess matches between them. These are not online matches. These are over-the-board matches, and you just divide your club into different teams. You can have 2 teams, 4 teams, 6 teams, however many teams you want. You create those teams. Each team gets a name, which can be whatever you want. And then to create a match, you select the team, and then you select the opponent. It's obvious now, but if I had more than 2 teams, I could mix and match each week and change them differently. I can have as many kids on a team as I want to. So when I match that team, now I have 2 teams, and the roster is automatically arranged by descending order of club rating. So top board and top board are could be pretty well balanced depending on how you set things up. And once I've done this, I can print a match form, and that form is not just a little thing to post so the kids see who they're going to play, but it's a score sheet so that after each match, the kids come up and they check the name of the winner for that match. So you have a record of the outcome. So you can use this Major League Chess function as a competitive thing, as a practice match thing, or you can set up some interesting possibilities like this week, everybody who's playing white will play 1 opening, and everybody who is playing black will play 1 defense. So you can use this as a way to get kids to study up on the various specific openings you want them to learn, and then have practice, formal practice in executing that and playing that out for the first 5 moves, the first 8 moves, whatever. This is the way that you can really get your kids to focus in on a structured learning system. And the potential is there. We make it as easy as possible for you to do things any way you want. So that is a demonstration of just an overview of the capabilities of Think Like a King with the home page, the chess workouts, and Chess Club Manager. There's much more detail in here. There are many more features that you can look at, but you can see at this point what an enormously powerful tool this can be to run a chess club or to help make your chess teaching businesses that much more successful. So I hope you've enjoyed this demonstration, and if you have any questions about it, you will have resources and people to ask, and you'll be able to go through the system and learn as much about it as you care to, and we hope you'll elect to use it in your own chess teaching business. Okay, Balaji, I think that's it.
Thank you, Steve. That was a great presentation.
Well, as you can tell, I've done this a few times.
Very nice.
All right, so Jaycar, now we